Good morning. I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we are the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
Motorists face more burden as another oil price hike takes effect this week, with diesel jumping by 18.80 pesos per liter.
Lawmakers push Bayanihan 3 bill to grant emergency powers and curb rising fuel prices amid energy crisis.
The ILG rolls out Safer Cities measures to crack down on street disorder and boost public safety.
The country's overall inflation rose to 4.1% in March 2026 compared to 2.4% in February. First in the news, the Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, has confirmed the death of a Filipina who was killed in a missile attack on a residence in Haifa, Israel on April 5, 2026. She died alongside her Israeli husband and elderly parents-in-law. The Philippine Embassy in Tel Aviv is providing assistance to the family and arranging the earliest possible repatriation of her remains. The DFA has asked for privacy for the family as the Filipino community mourns her loss.
Oil price hikes are taking effect this week, adding more pressure on motorists. Petron for One has increased prices effective 6 a.m. April 7, with gasoline up by 4 pesos and 90 centavos per liter, diesel by 18 pesos and 80 centavos, and kerosene by 8 pesos and 10 centavos. Other oil companies have also implemented similar adjustments as global oil prices remain volatile due to the ongoing conflict in the Middle East.
Now let's take a look at the situation at gasoline stations. We have our mobile journalist Francis Rivera on the ground. Francis, marami pa rin ba nagpapagas today?
Good morning, Angela and Diego. Yes, kanina doon sa mga nadaanan nating gas station, may mga iilan pa rin mga motorista ang talagang pikit mata nilang nagpapagas. So, talagang ayon nga doon sa mga nakausap nating TNVS, lalo na doon sa mga rider, talagang ang sakit-sakit na raw talaga sa bulsa na pumapalo na sa 150 more than 150 pesos ang kada litro ng diesel at 100 piso naman para doon sa gas. At talagang yung sabi nga nila kanina sa atin, halos doon na lang daw talaga umiikot yung kanilang mga sinasaho o kanilang mga nakukuha doon sa kanilang mga biyahe. Actually, Angela and Diego, nandito tayo sa isang waiting shed dito along EDSA sa Pasay City. At yung iba naman, dito tayo kanina nag-ikot-ikot at nagtanong-tanong din sa mga commuter naman, no? At ayon to sa ilang mga commuter na natanungan natin, yung ginagawa naman nilang tulong para sa ating mga kapatid na tsuper, kapag may sobra sa kanilang mga binayad, hindi na nga raw nila kinukuha yung sukli. At isa pa sa mga napansin natin, Angela and Diego, actually sa mga ganitong oras, talagang bumper to bumper ang traffic dito dahil nga rush hour at iba yung volume ng sasakyan dito sa kahabaan ng EDSA, especially dito sa Pasay, kasi usually dito dumadaan yung mga galing mga south, Las Piñas, Cavite, Parañaque at going to north, pumapasok sa kanilang mga trabaho. Dito sila dumadaan. Pero as you can see, Angela and Diego, talaga napakaluwag ng daloy ng trapiko. At ilan din sa mga napansin natin, may mga jeepney driver o mga jeep dito na dito muna nakapark. Ito. At nag-iintay ng pasahero, ayon nga doon sa ating mga nakausap ng tsuper, nag-iintay sila ng pasahero kahit papaano makatulong sa kanila, lalo na ngayon na medyo masakit talaga sa bulsa. Ito kasi yung mga biyahe papuntang Alabang at galing sila dito sa Pasay to Alabang. So medyo malayo-layo at talagang malaki yung magagastos nila doon sa gas. No? At isa nga dito sa natanungan natin, si Tatay Larry, ito, si Sir, ikot lang natin. Yun. Ayan. Kamusta po ang biyahe nyo ngayon? Ayan. Sige. Yes po. Ay. Thank you. Kamusta po ang biyahe nyo, sir? Okay.
Maganda yung biyahe namin, sir, dahil napakataas na po na puso. Kaya natin, magandang may uwi sa bahay. Pero ngayon, talagang tagilid na kami. Mga transport group.
Mhm. Magkano yung ano nyo? Kwentuhan natin kanina, magkano yung gas ninyo, magkano yung balikan?
Balikan po namin sa 500. Mhm. Tapos yung collection lang po namin, ito lang. Ngayon, kung hindi kami mag-aantay ng pasayro, wala, mag-aapuno po kami sa panditin natin.
Magkano na lang yan, Tatay Larry?
200 ho.
Dalawang-
May pareha pa ako. 200 mahigit.
200. Tapos,
Yung gas po namin ay 500. Kaya kung hindi kami mag-aantay ng pasayro dito, wala, mag-aapuno kami ng panggas para lang magkaroon ng krudo.
ayun, okay. Thank you, Tatay Larry. Angela, Diego, isa lamang yan. Si Tatay Larry, sa mga nandito na naghihintay ng pasahero. At hinihintay nga nila daw na mapuno na yung mga jeep nila bago sila bumiyahe. Angela, Diego?
Yes, Francis, kanina ba sa pag-iikot mo dyan, may mga nakita kang ibang gasoline stations na mag-i-implement later on pa ng price hike sa kanilang mga produktong petrolyo?
Yes, Angela, tinanong natin yung ilang mga gas station doon sa nadaanan natin at tinatanungan natin kung may susunod pa ba dito sa price na to kasi 150. Actually, yung iba kasi pumapalo na rin ng 160 na per liter dun sa diesel tapos 110 naman doon para sa gasoline. At ang sabi nga nila baka stay muna sa ganitong sa ganun presyohan tapos hintayin na lang din nila for next week kung ano yung magiging progress. Pero sa mga pinagtanungan natin, kahit gusto nilang utay-utayin na pagsipa doon sa presyo, talagang kinukonsider pa rin nila yung mga tsuper, yung mga motorista, no, lalong-lalo na yung mga talagang ang hanap buhay nasa kalsada. Yun daw yung mga kinoconsider nila kaya hindi nila kayang isang bagsakan ng taas pero as yung nilibot natin yung ilan dito talagang pumapalo na ng 150 to 160 yung kada litro ng diesel.
How about Francis, yung gasoline? Kamusta na yung prices?
Yes, yung sa gasoline naman Diego, nasa 100 to 110 pesos ang kada litro So bahagyang mas mababa pero yun nga unlike last week na nasa 90 pesos may mga nakikita pa tayo mga 80, 89 pesos tapos yung iba naman nasa range pa rin ng 95 pesos Pero yung karamihan sa mga naikot natin talagang 100 na mahigit 100 pesos na kada litro ng gasolina.
Alright, thank you so much for your time. That is our mobile journalist, Francis Rivera.
Inflation surged to 4.1% in March, driven by sharp fuel price increases amid the Middle East conflict. This is the highest in nearly 2 years and above the central bank's target range. The transport sector was the hardest hit, with inflation spiking to 9.9% as gasoline and diesel prices posted double-digit increases. Global oil prices have climbed past $100 per barrel as disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz continue.
Now, for more details, we have our mobile journalist, Ray Vicente, joining us today. Ray?
Angela, Diego, magandang umaga nga. Ayon nga sa naganap na press conference ng Philippine Statistics Authority, ay pumalo nga sa 4.1% ang inflation rate ng bansa para sa March 2026. Ito ay actually 1.7% higher nga sa nagdaang buwan ng February 2026 na nasa 2.4% lang yung inflation rate at habang 2.3% higher naman kung pagbabasihan ng year-over-year basis mula nga sa 1.8% na inflation rate noong March 2025, no? Angela, Diego, ito nga dahil nga sa patuloy na krisis na nagaganap sa Middle East kung saan apektado talaga ang bansa dahil nga sa patuloy nagpataas ng presyo ng petrolyo at maging ibang kagamitan, no? Kaya naman ang main sources na nabanggit kanina sa press conference ay ang pagtaas ng inflation, kabilang na talaga yung transportasyon kung saan nasa 9.9% inflation rate ang inflation rate ngayong March 2026. Kabilang na dyan mismo yung mga gasoline, diesel at maging electricity, housing, gas at ibang pang fuels, kung nasaan 4.5% naman inflation rate ngayong March 2026. No? Ilan din naman sa mga main contributors na nabanggit kanina syempre yung food and non-alcoholic beverages, kung saan karaniwan talaga yung mga seafoods, cereals, yung ilan nga sa mga tinatansyang mga nagko-contribute sa mga malaking klase ganitong klase inflation rate. No? Pero maliban dyan, Angela, Diego, ay talagang kabilang nga sa mga food groups na natin yung nag-contribute sa malaking inflation rate nga ngayong March 2026 ay ang oil, fats, flour, pati corn. Angela, Diego.
Ray, based sa inflation basket, no, ano pa ang mga nakikita natin na paunti-unti bumibilis ng inflation at nararamdaman? Like for example, I remember a few months ago pa yung rent, tumataas ang rent, no? Kamusta na?
Well, yes, Diego, nabanggit din dyan kanina, no? Talaga yung housing and rentals, isa sa mga bumibilis talaga yung pagtaas ng presyo, lalo na ngayon, tumataas din yung presyo ng petrolyo dahil nga sa ongoing na crisis. At nasa 4.5% nga dyan, kabilang nga dyan yung housing, water, pati electricity. Pero maliban dyan, kabilang din dun sa highest inflation food groups or groups in general, yung flour, pati oil, na tinataya nga na mas tataas pa raw sa mga susunod na buwan kung sakaling pagpatuloy daw yung krisis na nangyayari sa bansa.
Pero how about yung mga agricultural goods? Wala pang masyadong nararamdaman ba?
Yes, Diego, in terms of agriculture, wala pa naman daw masyadong nadarama, no? O more on transportation talaga, yung nabanggit na main contributor sa nangyayari ng pagtaas nga ng inflation. Pero tinitingnan daw nila sa mga susunod na buwan, susunod na linggo actually, kung tataas pa raw itong mga agricultural products.
Well, tulad nga na nabanggit mo, no, hindi natin sure, no, hindi tayo sigurado hanggang kailan itong conflict sa Middle East and would greatly affect our country. Meron ba sila nabanggit doon na forecast nila kung hanggang saan, no, aabutin itong inflation natin by April and first few weeks of May?
Yes, Angela, wala pa silang nabanggit actually na talagang forecast from BSP. Pero kasi kung matatandaan natin, Angela, ay nasa 3.1 to 3.9% yung naitalang forecast ng BSP from March. Pero sa ngayon nga, nasa 4.1% na tayo. So mas nag-exceed pa doon, no? Habang ngayon, di pa natin alam kung ano talaga yung mismong percentage range sa mga susunod na buwan. Pero inaasahan nila na baka mas tumaas pa kung sakaling patuloy nga tumataas yung presyo ng petrolyo. Kaya naman ang sinasabi nila na naghahanap pa sila ng ibang plano para talagang mas may pababa yung inflation rate ng bansa, katulad na lamang ng pamimigay lalo ng mga fuel subsidies. Kasi kung alam nga natin, maliban sa mga tsuper, may mga hindi pa nabibigyan katulad na lamang ng mga mangingisda, pati mga farmers.
Did they also discuss there sa kanilang press con, Ray, yung kasi I remember nagkaroon ng usapan, no, ang government and the manufacturers na hindi muna magtataas sa mga basic commodities, no? And by April 16, baka magtaas na ulit sila. Pero it is subject pa rin, no, for another meeting or discussion. But have they discussed it already? And what will be the steps of the government kung hindi na mapigilan ang mga manufacturers to increase their prices because of the ongoing oil crisis in the Middle East?
Well, Angela, hindi pa talaga nila talagang nailatag yung mga plano nila in terms of sa mga ganyan kasi more on transportation talaga sila nagpo-focus. Pero isa na nga sa mga nabanggit talaga nila maliban sa pamimigay na fuel subsidy use yung mga setup, mga work from home setup, pati mga ibang bagay pa para talaga mas ma-lessen daw or mas ma-decrease pala yung pag-increase nga ng inflation para sa mga susunod na buwan.
All right, thank you for that. Mobile Journal, Ray Vicente.
Lawmakers are trying to provide solutions to help with the ongoing crisis. A proposed Bayanihan 3 bill filed in the Senate on Monday seeks to grant the President emergency powers to stabilize supply and curb rising fuel prices. The measure would allow the government to temporarily intervene in the oil industry, including managing supply, implementing price controls, and ensuring adequate fuel allocations during the emergency period. It also includes fiscal relief, such as suspending or reducing excise taxes and value-added tax on petroleum products.
Joining us now is Dr. Froilan Calilong, faculty of the Department of Political Science and the Graduate School at the University of Santo Tomas. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Hi.
Yes, good morning, Jago. Good morning, Angela, and good morning to your televiewers as well. Thank
Yeah.
you for having me again.
Thank you, Prof. Several intervention from the government are in place to try to curb the speeding up of the inflation. No? But do you think these approaches are enough to lessen the impacts ground level?
Actually, I think what we can say is that it's better to have this than to have nothing at all. Although we could have prepared for this a lot better. Again, the government is taking more on a reactive stance rather than being proactive dito sa issue na to. No? Pero I think what is important here is that nailalatag at nagagawa pa rin naman yung mga hakbang na kinakailangan natin for this to navigate through this crisis.
But do you think, kasi you're right, no? A lot of people are saying more on reactive ang ginagawa natin. But do you think we have already the mechanisms in place in the long term to ensure that if this draws out for a long time, Doc, hindi tayo maapektuhan? O, nawala ata si Doc na. Oo. Doc is there. Go ahead, Doc. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think what is imperative here is primarily malaman natin kung ano ba talaga on the ground, ano ba talaga yung unang mga kinakailangan. We need to stick to the basics, and right now since we're actually experiencing fuel shortage, the spikes will be felt much more in the coming days. I think kailangan yung long-term preparation talaga nandun. Dapat yung buffer natin dito, we're not only looking at maybe around 6 months. I think we need to lengthen that even further para talaga makusyon yung effect. And I think itong Bayanihan 3, I think would be a good measure to that. I think what is imperative here, again, is that itong Bayanihan 3, hindi lamang dapat siya naka-anchor doon sa ayuda system. Yung ayuda system natin na ginawa nung COVID-19 response. I think it should go beyond that. Okay, and right now I think we have better mechanisms. We have the national ID system, nandiyan yung LGU databases, at mas maganda rito sana kung yung pagbibigay ng ayuda is magagawa natin digitally, and that will definitely curb down corruption. Pwedeng mawala din dito yung ma-dispel natin dito yung agam-agam ng publiko na baka mapupunta na naman sa magandang kamay yung pera na inaalat sana para sa mga mahihirap nating kababayan. All these things, kinakailangan natuto na tayo from the previous bayanihan. So, mas maganda kung mas mailalatag natin siya ng tama. At hindi lang dapat ayuda, Diego, Angela. Kailangan nakafocus talaga tayo doon sa structural long-term economic relief, particularly on how we could ensure na yung hindi lamang yung mga manggagawa natin, kundi yung din mga SMS, small and medium-scale enterprises, masisiguro na yung kanilang mga manggagawa ma-retain nila dito sa crisis na kinakaharap natin right now.
Well, there is an ongoing debate whether should the president whether suspend or reduce taxes on petroleum products or wag, because of course number one, we will lose 136 billion of revenue. Yun ang isa sa mga sinasabi nila. And while it benefits the poor, ganun din ang mga mayayaman. So sinasabi nila parang it's not really inclusive, itong if ever itong suspension or reducing ng taxes. Your thoughts on that?
Well, number one, I think drastic times really call for drastic measures. And I believe na kung talagang decidido at talagang mayroong firm resolute dito yung ating pamahalaan, na talagang ma-cushion yung effect nitong crisis na to, no, on all segments of the society, I think this is a very good measure to begin with, because when you suspend the excise tax, it definitely cuts across all the various sectors and segments of the society, including, of course, the middle class, no? And alam naman natin, middle class talaga ang bumabalikat ng mas malaking percentage
Yeah.
ng tax burden ng ating bansa, no? And I think it's imperative na maramdaman din naman nila, no, na yung gobyerno ay nandito rin para sa kanila. So I think in other countries actually, very swift yung kanilang naging measures, especially in cutting down the excise tax. Actually, yun yung unang-unang ginawa. And I really don't understand why in the Philippines medyo natatagalan tayo na tanggalin ito, no? Actually, may mga iba pa nga tayong senators, I believe, like Ping Lacson, who is, I think, against the cutting down of the excise tax. When in fact, this is something na kailangan ng ating mga kababayan at this point.
Well, it's good that you mentioned about the middle class because sila yung mga talagang umaaray ngayon because during the pandemic, 'di ba, ang sabi nga nila, they're too rich to receive ayuda and too poor to receive yung mga tax cuts from the businesses. So, do you think that the government right now is really addressing once and for all yung mga pangangailangan naman ng middle class natin dahil sila naman tayo din naman talaga yung nagbabayad din ng mga taxes.
Yeah, I think it's important maramdaman naman natin, no, ng mga middle class right now, na talagang nandiyan din naman yung gobyerno para sa atin. Kasi nga nakita yung epekto nito is really not only felt in the gas stations, it will definitely be felt most likely sa ating groceries, sa ating mga binibili, no, the inflation will really hit hard, no. The recession is actually looming in the horizon.
Yeah.
And I think it's but imperative na kung tayo ay matagal na nating binabalikat itong tax burden na to, maramdaman naman natin sana ngayon. Kaya nga may mga may mga ibang mga nabasa ako ng mga bills, measures that are filed in the Congress, like House Bill 8821, which was filed by Congressman Robert Nazal of Bagong Henerasyon Party List, na talagang ang struktura, no, talagang paglalatag hindi lamang nung immediate nung immediate cushioning effect, kundi long-term strategic
Yes.
planning at relief yung kinakailangan natin. Actually, ang title ng bill is parang National Emergency Energy Relief and Protection Act, no. So very 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 all-encompassing at saka malaki talaga yung kanyang saklaw. At the same time, hindi lang siya talaga purely reactive, na anytime na meron tayong crisis na ganito, may mga trigger
Measures
elements
na,
or trigger factors, talaga pwede na natin siyang gamitin.
And moving forward, no, Doc, do you think it's high time we should review yung tax system natin? Because we have multiple taxes upon taxes. We have VAT, EVAT. Ngayon, I'll take one into account before I ask for your opinion. For example, the middle class daw on the average puts in 20 liters of gasoline. Now, sa 20 liters,
Right.
could you imagine, sa VAT pa lang, magkano ang masisave kung tinanggal mo yon? Mawawalang pera sa ayuda system, pero yung effect naman sa middle class is we have more spending power.
That is right. Actually, there are two ways really of curbing corruption, rather inflation at this point in time. One is, of course, increase the purchasing power of the peso, which I think right now medyo wala yun sa ating mga kamay, primarily because this is conditioned by exogenous factors, especially yung mga nangyayari sa labas ng bansa. No? Pero what we actually have in our hands right now and what the government could do is to, syempre, nandito na tayo sa emergency situation. Nagdeklara na nga sila ng 1-year national emergency. Number one, makakayanin na natin makapagtakda ng mga price ceilings, no? The TTI should actually take the lead in this, and syempre kailangan ma-monitor talaga yung presyo ng mga bilihin para masiguro na kahit hindi man tumaas yung ating sweldo, at least kahit paano yung bilihin hindi naman din aalagwa ng sobra to the point na may iwanan talaga yung mamimiling Pilipino. I think these are things that we really need to take into consideration. Plus, the fact na meron talaga dapat ginagawa. No? Hindi lamang yung national government, even the local government units should actually have started, with their own respective databases. Kinakailangan meron na rin silang mga trabaho na kumbaga nasa pipeline para talaga yung immediate cash for work mechanisms ay nandyan talaga. Because I think yun ang kinakailangan talaga natin ngayon. And syempre kailangan din yung ibang mga social services hindi rin mawawala, like health, among others. And the most important thing here, Diego, Angela, I think is yung accountability should be there. Ideally, dapat meron tayong real-time dashboard. Nakikita natin kung kanina napunta, saan napunta. We could utilize blockchain technology para masiguro natin. Kasi ang pinaka-worst na mangyayari, I believe, is that nandito na tayo sa crisis and yet magkakaroon pa ng mga pagsasamantala yung ibang mga nasa position. I think that's the worst thing that could happen.
Oo. Well, I like what you said, accountability, because I remember during the COVID-19 pandemic, nagkaroon din ng mga, kumbaga, nag-abuso dyan, di ba, sa law na yan, at dapat ngayon maging transparent sila where they will get the funding for this law. No? But on the side of another topic, I want to ask you regarding the geopolitical aspect of this crisis. Recently, nakipag-usap tayo sa Iran and yun nga, nagkaroon tayo ng free passage daw or safe passage rather doon sa Strait of Hormuz. Do you think tama itong ginawa ng DFA doon sa aspetong yun? Or kasi others are saying baka daw magkaroon ng strain yung relationship natin because ang alay natin ay US.
Well, I think the first thing we need to understand is that we are a non-belligerent country here. Though we are traditional allies with the US, ito naman is hindi naman tayo nagpapakita ng pagkalas sa US in the first place. What we're trying to really go for here, tinatawag nating self-preservation mode pa rin naman, because we really want to ensure na hindi man natin mapababa yung presyo ng langis, at least hindi tayo magkukulang. And I think this is something that Iran actually also would want to recognize. So it does not change the fact that we're trying to be open. After all, ito naman talaga yung foreign policy nga na binabanggit ng ating Pangulo mula pa nung simula, that we are a friend to all and an enemy to none. So even if the United States is locked in a war right now with Iran, it doesn't mean that we're also going to do the same thing. And I think Iran actually sees this. Pero ang siguro mas mahalaga na makita natin dito is what will be the long-term effects of this war, especially na ito nga nakikita natin na medyo nag-escalate talaga siya ngayon, and it's going sabihin na natin medyo malayo-layo talaga yung tatakbuhin nito, and we really need to prepare for that, the long term. I think that's the more important thing.
Right. Maraming salamat po as always sa inyong oras. Of course, and insights, Dr. Froilan Calilong, Faculty of the Department of Political Science at the Graduate School at the University of Santo Tomas. Thank you so much for your time.
Salamat.
We'll be back with more stories after the break here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. The government is cracking down on street disorder, from public drinking to curfew violations, as it rolls out a nationwide Safer Cities initiative. Here's the report.
In broad daylight, these men were seen drinking along a sidewalk in Binondo, Manila. They claim they do it every day and still have work to go to.
Wala lang, sundo. Ang over, hindi mo pa pwede magpakasagad. May trabaho pa.
But authorities say excuses will no longer work. Under the Safer Cities initiative, anyone caught setting up tables and drinking on the street will be arrested.
Doon na nagagaling, number 1, ang away, number 2, ang sexual harassment. Bawal na. Kaya sabihan ko ang lahat, pasensyahan tayo. Pag kayo mag-inuman sa kalye, uhulihin namin kayo.
Going out shirtless in public is also prohibited, while curfew for minors starts at 10 p.m. and videoke is not allowed beyond that. The Interior Department is directing local governments to strictly enforce these ordinances.
Yung mga rugby boys dyan, yung mga geng-geng dyan, yung mga gago sa kalye dyan, magtago na kayo, umuwi na kayo pag 10 o'clock, uhulihin namin kayo.
The DILG and PNP stress this is not because crime is rising. In fact, crime has dropped by 60% since 2016.
The record shows bumaba talaga ang the occurrence of the focused crime. And this is attributed not only to the police but also to the different law enforcement agencies, lalong-lalo na ang ating stakeholders, the local government units.
Police presence will also be increased in schools, transport hubs, and nightlife areas. The program will be implemented nationwide, starting in Metro Manila, where most crimes occur in urban areas. Next target areas include Metro Cebu, Baguio, Bacolod, and Davao City.
Now to discuss how this Safer Cities initiative will be enforced on the ground, we're joined by Muntinlupa City Mayor Rufy Biazon. Mayor, good to have you with us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Angelo and Angela, and to your viewers.
All right, Mayor, let's get right to it. No? How is Muntinlupa preparing to implement these measures on the ground and to ensure na medyong fair ang pag-implement nito?
Yes, for one, we are in agreement with the direction of the Secretary of Interior and Local Government. It is also in line with some of our existing ordinances. So as far as implementation is concerned, we are prepared for it, and if needed, we will also pass additional new ordinances.
But what were the policies or ordinances are in place right now in Muntinlupa?
Well, for example, there's an existing curfew ordinance, although yung time prescribed is different from what the Secretary mentioned. Of course, if there is a need to align it with the direction of the Secretary, we are prepared to do it. Kasi ako, I believe na dapat in Metro Manila, coordinated yung policies, kung pwede, uniform policy. So if we have yet to see a formal order from or a directive from the Secretary, we just saw yung mga interviews. So yung implementing guidelines, we will also appreciate it, no, para makita namin how it aligns with our own ordinances and our own direction.
But in municipality of Muntinlupa, meron na po talaga doon yung katulad po doon sa binabanggit ni Secretary Rimula, yung ban ng drinking in public at saka yung sa mga karaoke. Like specifically po dun sa drinking in public kasi may mga iba po nagsasabi kasi na parang wala pa daw talagang law yun, and as Secretary of Local Government, di naman siya pwedeng mag-impose noon unless there's ordinance in the city.
Yes, wala pang ganun sa amin na yung the way the Secretary stated the policy. Kaya I think that's one thing na kailangan namin mag-pass ng new ordinance para more specific tayo.
Right.
Kaya pero sa amin I also agree with that direction. Kasi nagiging in some areas tradition, common practice, no, na sometimes pag may birthday, they celebrate sila ng birthday.
Yeah.
Nagiinuman sa harap ng bahay, no, along the street. Lalo na yung mga communities na maliliit. May mga inner communities din kasi kami na ni walang sidewalk eh. Yung bahay ay right along the side of the road.
Yeah.
Kaya pag lumalabas sila, they're practically on the road. Pag ginagawa nila yun.
And currently, Mayor, sa Muntinlupa po, no, ano po yung ordinance na meron regarding yung mga curfew for minors? Kasi nagkakaproblema daw sa interpretasyon per city. Some are saying na paano kung may kasamang magulang? Some cities would still hold the minor in violation. Isasama na lang yung magulang daw for an explanation. Some will say pag may magulang naman, pwede basta in transit.
Yes, ako I would agree to that, no, yung sinasabi kung may accompanied by a responsible relative. I would limit it to the relatives or the parents. Kung in transit naman, dapat ibigyan ng consideration 'yon. Kasi sa amin ang very real scenario na encounter namin, may mga minors na talaga mga magbabarkada, friends, no? Gangs pa nga actually yung iba, identified with certain gangs. And lumalabas sila at the wee hours of the morning. At and purposely yung iba parang lumalabas literal na naghahanap ng away. We've had instances ng ganun, kaya we had to deal with them. Yun nga lang dahil sa batas na hindi naman sila pwede handle such as yung ginagawa with adults na kinukulong mo. Hindi umuulit lang sila. So yun, that's a real problem na we face. Kaya yung curfew for minors is something na agree tayo.
Pero Mayor, pag yung mga you mentioned gangs, I've also heard several reports on that. Pag nahuhuli mo sila at mga minors sila, how do you handle them? What do you do with them? Kunyari, at 3 a.m. nagkaroon ng rumble, pero mga minor lahat.
Well, siyempre unang nagre-responde yung police, but then hindi naman pwedeng take into custody ng police. So
Yes.
kailangan accompanied din kami ng team coming from Social Services Department, yung pinaka-counterpart ng DSWD. So they take the minors into it's called rescue pa nga, rescued by Social Services, and then contacted yung relatives or yung parents. Hindi naman pwede i-hold yung minors for beyond a certain number of hours. So, release din sila ulit sa magulang nila. Yun yung difficulty rin na hinaharap. Lalo na kung na-tsempo na yung parents themselves ay hindi rin ganun ka-responsible.
Well, it's good that you mentioned that because may ibang mga ordinances sa ibang cities na or ibang mga panukala na gusto din nila na mapanagot yung mga magulang ng mga minors na mahuhuli, no? Are you in favor of that as well?
Well, in principle, talagang yung parents should be held accountable. If ever na lang, we just have to navigate yung legal intricacies kung anong po pwede ilagay doon sa ordinance. As of now, wala pa kaming ganung klaseng ordinance na holding the parents accountable.
Well, how's the crime rate po in Muntinlupa City?
Crime rate is low, no? Fortunately, since Muntinlupa is a small city, tapos kami, mostly 60% of our communities are residential. Hindi ganun kataas ang crime. Petty crime, mga snatching, mga ganyan meron, no? Pero as far as violent crime is concerned, yung tinatawag na index crimes, we are one of the lowest in the NCR. It has something to do with yung demographics ng city namin.
Well, how will we ensure po na magiging patas at consistent po yung enforcement nitong mga ordinances na to? Just to make sure lang po na wala pong malalabag, of course, usapin po ng karapatang pantao.
Yes. Naman kami, no? We I would say na very strong kasi ang aming governance dito with regard to human rights. Very active ang mga civic organizations, mga NGOs, and yung citizens' participation. So yung involvement ng interaction between the police and civil society organization is very good. Kaya nag-observe naman ang kapulisan dito with regard to respect for human rights. At the same time, ako naman, ang direction is for us to be strong on enforcement of the law. So, gaya sa akin naman, instruction ko sa police, basta you move within the law. Yun ang aking palaging paalala sa kanila.
Ano po, Mayor, ang gagawin po ng Muntinlupa with regards to some cities kasi are planning to implement sa Safer Cities Initiative, yung educational aspect. Or that will or maglalagay doon ng more leagues, sports leagues para mabawasan sa mga kabataan ng bisyo. Sa inyo po may outreach din kayo?
Yes, ginagamit din namin yung Sangguniang Kabataan. We encourage the Sangguniang Kabataan to come up with programs which would address yung needs ng youth. Yung educational opportunities sa amin, we're very much supported by city government yan. We practically give allowances to all those who go to school. Right now we have 100 more than 110,000 na nakaka-receive ng study allowance. So yung incentive to stay in school, mataas naman ang ang offering namin for the youth and the youth programs. Definitely hindi lang purely law enforcement, kasama doon yung yung shaping the mindset and character, especially ng mga kabataan.
Well, as of now po ba, nakapag-usap na po kayo, of course, ng Vice Mayor po ninyo along with the councilors to make sure na moving forward, makagawa po talaga ng law, no? Ordinance po ninyo regarding po yung pagbabawal ng pag-inom sa kalye, because yun po yung isa sa mga priority, of course, na sinabi ni Secretary John Vic Rimulya.
Yes, we're taking the cue from the secretary. So nung as soon as na lumabas yung announcement niya, yung statement, I directed the review of existing ordinances para makita namin kung ano ang mga kailangan namin i-realign with the direction, and of course yung mga gaps ay ma-fill naman namin. So na rin kami po ngayon, we're ongoing on that.
Alright, sige, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras sa Muntinlupa City Mayor Rufy Biason. Thank you so much.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Right.
With oil prices surging and inflation on the rise, Filipinos are feeling the pinch in their daily spending, from travel plans to food and utilities. Mobile journalist Amy Atienza reports.
Oil prices have gone up over the past month of this year. From a 2.4% inflation last February, the country is projecting an even higher inflation rate for the following months. And this has severely affected consumerism among Filipinos, with some slashing travel plans during the Holy Week break, while others cut down on electricity and food consumption. Global Tourism Business Association President Michelle Tailan explained that personal safety adds up as a factor as more Filipinos try to save up, especially on leisure.
Mahal na talaga if they are going to book right now. So yun yung mga fear nila. Of course, number one, safety. Number two, of course, it's too expensive. So it's lesser now to travel.
But the country's current oil crisis could not be much different from what was experienced during the Russia-Ukraine war in 2022. Financial analyst Jonathan Ravelas noted that the only difference could be the behavior of Filipinos on spending, as pandemic was just easing up during that time.
Dati, oil prices were between $50 to $60. So the first year of the Russia-Ukraine war, umabot tayo ng 120. So inflation also went up to between 7-8%. So coming from the pandemic, iba yung pananaw natin. Medyo malakas pa ng konti yung economy kasi kumbaga gutom tayo Lahat tayo nakakulong nung pandemic, no? So therefore, nandyan yung naalala mo yung revenge spending that everyone talks about kasi nakalabas ka. So people wanted to do experiential.
Now that the country is not seeing any stop to this dilemma, more Filipinos have had their ways of saving. According to Ravelas, one key factor is learning on how to be more efficient and even understanding how inflation works on the end of the consumers.
So, yung inflation is for you and me, it's just a gauge for prices, change in prices over a 1-year period, but it is also your rate of return. Diba? So kung ikaw mahilig ka kumain sa restaurant, kailangan kumakain ka sa hotel, definitely your inflation are between 8 to 15%. Kasi mahal yung presyo doon diba? Pero kung nagbabaon ka and siguro once or twice a week ka lang kumakain sa labas, siguro that would be between 5 to 7%.
Kapatid Amy Atienza, we are One News.
President Donald Trump said the Iranian people want the U.S. to keep bombing, claiming they are willing to suffer to achieve their freedom. Here is the report.
Israel and the United States carried out a series of attacks on Iran on Monday, killing more than 25 people. One strike targeted an ICT building at Tehran's Sharif University of Technology, the country's top engineering school. Over the years, several countries have imposed sanctions on the university because of its ties to Iran's military, particularly its involvement in research linked to the nation's ballistic missile program overseen by the paramilitary Revolutionary Guard. In response, Iran fired missiles at Israel and its Gulf Arab neighbors. The attacks follow a U.S. deadline to Tehran, warning that its power plants and other infrastructure would be targeted if no agreement was reached to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Monday's strike on an Iranian petrochemical facility is part of a systematic campaign aimed at destroying the Revolutionary Guard's money machine. President Donald Trump added that the Iranian people want the U.S. to keep bombing, insisting that citizens are willing to suffer to secure their freedom.
They would be willing to suffer that in order to have freedom. The Iranians have, and we've had numerous intercepts. Please keep bombing. Bombs that are dropping near their homes. Please keep bombing. Do it. And these are people that are living where the bombs are exploding. And when we leave and we're not hitting those areas, they're saying, please come back, come back, come back. These are the people. I don't know what they do. All I can tell you is they want freedom. They have lived in a world that you know nothing about. It's a violent, horrible world where if you protest, you are shot.
The Philippines' fertility rate has fallen to a record low of 1.7 children per woman. According to the Philippine Statistics Authority or PSA, this is below the replacement level of 2.1, raising concerns about future population growth. Filipino women are having fewer children in both urban and rural areas and are delaying childbirth, with most births now occurring among women aged 25 to 29. Teenage pregnancies are also declining, while more married women report they do not want additional children. The PSA also noted a rise in the use of modern contraceptives, reflecting shifts in family planning choices across the country.
Now let's discuss that further with Undersecretary Lisa Grace Bersales, Executive Director of the Commission on Population and Development. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's our pleasure. Thank you so much for the invitation to your show.
Of course. All right. So is this, the recent survey, is this actually surprising on your end?
Well, the survey results on total fertility rate is not surprising as far as the Commission on Population and Development is concerned, because actually, if we look at fertility rate through the years that have been released by the Philippine Statistics Authority, there really has been a declining trend. Furthermore, when the Philippine Statistics Authority reported on the result of our census in 2024, we noted that the population growth rate has decreased from 1.6% to 8.8% annually. Furthermore, we also monitor the civil registration vital statistics reports of the Philippine Statistics Authority, and we note a decline in registered live births. So this is not surprising, but this is not worrying either.
All right. So what do you think is the factors, or what are the factors contributing to this decline?
Oh, I believe that there are many factors. In fact, we see that our population policy has been most effective. We started our population policy of informing couples and women of reproductive health and availability of services and family planning. So we believe that this has been effective. Furthermore, another factor that we see from research is that our women and our couples are actually very much informed on their responsibilities as parents. So the government has been pushing for what we call responsible parenthood, or planadong pamilya panalo. So our women now understand the responsibilities of raising children. So the factor of rising prices. So I've been listening to your news, and inflation has increased again. Although I expect this to be a a part of short-term volatility. Because before the Iran war, inflation has been stable. So there is recognition by couples that they need to provide for their children, but there are issues of inflation, so they are limiting the number of children.
Well, it's also good, Yusek, no, na we are the growth of population is controlled. But what are the measures also in place with regards to possible decline in population? Kasi like Japan is experiencing an aging population.
Aging population.
So is China. No, are there mechanisms in place also to make sure na medyo we are balanced in terms of growth and decline?
Yes, Angelo, thank you so much for asking that. You know, we actually look at the population projections of the Philippine Statistics Authority so that we manage our concerns. We have the population projection that by 2035, we are still okay in the sense that our population will still be growing. Actually, there is the World Bank report on the the Philippines population situation by 2050. No, that's 24 years from now. And what is seen there is that we won't yet reach the situation of South Korea, Japan, even Thailand, where they are now inverted pyramid, where most of the population is older people. Even by 2050, the projection of the Philippines is we will be like a rectangle where there will be equal number of people by age group, but with a bulge, some working age population. So we expect that even up to 2050, we will still have more of our people working age, but less young, 14 and below, and a bigger share of the older population. So actually, we will also be considered as an aging population, but not to the extent where there are more older people than working age and young. So the Philippines will be still aging population like others. By 2028, we'll be considered aging population already. But the bulge of our population is still working age, which is 14 to 65. But of course, we have to look at the intentions of our women and couples on having children. The good news is the Filipino still wants children, except that they want to limit their children. So now our household size is 4.1, which means 2 couples and 2 children on average, which is just good. Fertility, it's a replacement for fertility. Now, why are the richer women and the more educated having less children? What we see is that there is a delay in having children.
Right.
So the goal of the Philippine government, along with other partners, is to provide proper education and information to our couples and proper support. Kaya ngayon nga in the workplace, even the Civil Service Commission has promoted work from home or flexi-place. We are actually in that mode now because of the oil crisis. So more of us will be working from home. So this is an example of support for women who want to have children, where they can still work but still take care of their children. So these are what the government plans to do to support women who want to have children. Our population policy is not yet coercive in the sense that we don't dictate the number of children that couples may want to have. Yes, so we allow our women to decide, but the good news is the women still want to have children. In fact, it seems that the desired number of children is still around 2 to 3. And because of more information and access to services, women are able to really meet the need of what they want. No, so we are good. The government is providing, but of course there is more support that we need for the women who want children, but still who would want to be in the labor force who would
Yes,
want to work.
Well, of course, significant, it's noticeable what you said earlier, the trend of delayed childbearing, na yung iba nagkakaanak na ng by 25 to 29. But what is also noticeable here is yung continued drop in teenage pregnancy nationwide, which is good, right?
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. We're very happy about that. This means that our policies of the government and initiatives of the government for more communication to our youth about the perils of risky behavior and having unplanned pregnancy, these are working. So we will continue with the initiatives of government. So what are the initiatives of the government? These are from the national down to the LGU level. So we have programs where we target the youth in school. The Department of Education actually has modules that talk about reproductive health. They are not standalone subjects, but they're embedded as modules to teach the youth about dreaming, dreams, and strategies to meet their dreams. That's what we're promoting. Oh, gusto mo maging teacher? Paano mo makamit yan?
Right.
Eh di, stay in school, focus on your schooling. Kanina narinig ko po yung inyong interview kay Sir Rufy Biazon. Yeah, that the youth, so yun, yung mga children in school. The government, along with LGUs, also have targeted interventions for out-of-school youth. Now, of course, yung una sana ay maibalik sila sa school, pero kung wala sa school, meron tayong teen centers and other programs along with the SK na makausap itong mga batang walang sa eskwelahan tungkol uli sa kanilang reproductive health.
All right.
And then we also have a program for families naman because we agree that the discussion of human capital development, of teaching the children to dream and meet their dreams must start in the family.
That's
so
true.
meron tayong parenting talk to talk about the youth dreaming dreams and reaching their dream. Ang amin pong strategy in talking to the youth is don't go straight to reproductive health or family planning, no? But talk more about ano bang gusto mo maging.
Aspirations in
paano,
life.
paano mo makamit yan. Delay. Delay yung mga risky behavior. So nakita din namin na yung mga teenage pregnancy correlated yan sa alcoholism and smoking. So another strategy is to, teach them not to do risky behavior.
Alright.
So ito po yung mga, and so we're happy that it seems that the interventions are working kasi bumababa yung ating adolescent pregnancies.
Good talking to you. Maraming salamat po sa inyong oras. Undersecretary Lisa Grace Bersales, Executive Director of the Commission on Population and Development. Thank you so much for your time.
Marami po salamat. More power to your show.
Thank you.
And that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again tomorrow. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
I'm Angelo Castro III. Kapatid, we are one you.
All sides, all the time.